When installing a new jack plate, you want to make sure that your surface area is prepped and nice and clean. And I'm just using a razor blade here to scrape the surface to remove all the residual silicone and sealant that was there previously. I'm going to also use a drill bit that's the same size as the existing holes to clean out anything that's inside those holes. You want to get those clean as well, allowing your new sealant to coat everything, provide the best seal. I'm using a magic eraser here with a little bit of rubbing alcohol on there. Works well for cleaning up residual silicone, and then wiping the surface one more time for my final prep with a little paint thinner to get that as clean as possible. We're using 3M 4200. This is a fast cure as our sealant, and here I'm just going to apply it around each bolt and washer anywhere that these bolts or mounting plates are going to touch the surface of the transom to do our best job to try and create a complete seal. I'm also going to coat the bolts themselves and then even squirt the sealant inside the transom holes themselves. I am not worried at all about how clean this is. I'm more concerned about the effectiveness of them keeping water out of my transom. Any leftover sealant on your threads, good thing, it's just going to act as a thread lock, so don't worry about that. For my bottom bolts, I do not have a mounting plate, so I just have regular washers here, of course using all stainless. Doing the same thing, just spreading that silicone sealant over the heads of the bolts there, and then along the bolts themselves and inside the transom holes. Once all four of the bolts are in place, I'm just going to apply a bead around each bolt where it protrudes from the back of the transom. And then we'll move over to the jack plate itself and apply a bead just inside the mounting plate of the jack plate there, and then doing a circle around each of the holes on those brackets. Once you've got this done, you're ready to put the jack plate into place, and it helps to have an extra set of hands, someone that can hold the bolts in place as you're applying pressure. It is a little difficult to get them perfectly lined up, but it's not too bad. Just wiggle a little bit there back and forth. I think three of the bolts went in easily, and then that top left one gave us a little bit of trouble. We're just using a ratchet there to spin it and help just go right into place. Next, we're applying the washers and the nuts to the ends of those bolts, and then using I believe it's a 3/4 inch ratchet and wrench there. We're just tightening everything down. Make sure to check with your manufacturer on the specs that they require for your particular application. Once we get this all buttoned up, I'm going to clean out the application tube on the 4200. That stuff is expensive. I think it was like $27 for that. So I'm just using a deck screw and pushing it in and out a few times, cleaning that up, and then I can put this inside a Ziploc, and in my freezer it'll be good for a few months. So now I'm at the point where I'm going to be wiring in the jack plate. We've got it mounted. I'm happy with how it turned out. Just kind of run through what comes in the box with this particular Action Series jack plate to give you an idea what to expect and possibly some ideas on how you can rig yours. It comes with this relay box and wiring harness. So basically you're going to run your positive and your negative directly to your battery. This is the wires that go directly to your jack plate. So it's just quick plug and play directly here. You got a total of 9 feet from the jack plate to your relay box. This may not work for your application. It's not going to work for mine. I'm going to have to do some splicing. Keep in mind, they want you to be within 4 foot of your battery. This relay box needs to be 4 foot from your battery, and it says warranty voided if you cut this harness. So do not cut this harness. It does come with a little breaker here and a 5 amp fuse here, and this is in line with your switch leg. So basically, you're going to connect these to your battery, this directly to your jack plate, and then this last one here connects to your switch leg. This ribbon cable is, I think, about 10 feet. You know, you'll connect this together and then run the other end of this to the provided rocker switch. Is pretty nice. And then you'll just splice in the butt connectors that comes with. I'm personally not going to be using this. I'm going to be using the blinker style switch, so no need for that. But just real quick, just wanted to explain how I'm going to have to run this, because although it did come with a total of 9 feet, there's no possible way that I can get the wiring up to my battery, which is under the console. This relay box is just too big. It will not fit in my rigging tube, and it would be such a tight fit anyway. So not cutting this one. I'll be cutting this 12 gauge, this wire here is 12 gauge. I'll be cutting this and then heat shrinking that with marine grade butt connectors, extending this about 3.5 to 4 feet so that it will reach exactly where I want it to be. I'll be able to cut it to the exact length to make it nice and pretty, and not have a whole bunch of extra wire rolled up under my console. So anyways, that's pretty much it. It's very simple, plug and play for the most part once you get the jack plate itself installed onto your boat. If you have your battery at the back of your boat, you're not going to have any problems. But having a flats boat, like I said, you really need to worry about weight distribution. So I've got my trolley motors way at the front. I've got my trolley motor batteries, I'm sorry, and then I've got my starting motor battery under the console. So there's no way I'm putting a battery in the back of my boat. It's just not gonna work for how I fish and how skinny I like to get the boat. So anyways, hopefully that helped you out. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know. If you're gonna be doing any marine electrical work, I recommend this brand, Wi-Fi. These are marine grade butt connectors. You can get them on Amazon, or you can go directly to their website. I've been using these for a long time on my boat, my friends' boats. They work really, really well, and compared to like some of the brands that you get like at West Marine, I think they carry like Anchor brand or something, super expensive. These are way, way cheaper. They're awesome. They work great. Look them up on Amazon. They have awesome reviews across the board. So yeah, if you want to save a little bit of money, go with this brand right here, Wi-Fi. All right, I'm going to be using 12-2 10 wire, and I'm going to start underneath the console, push the wire through my rigging tube. Then I'll do my splices down here at the back of the boat, and then without cutting from my spool, I'll pull it back up through. That way I am saving as much of my wire as possible, because it's not cheap. So anyways, just a little tip. Here I'm removing the outer sheathing of this 12-2 wire and cutting my, here I'm cutting the negative wire offset about 2 inches or so. It's a little about 2 inches shorter than the red wire, and then when I cut my harness from the jack plate, I'll be doing the same thing, just in the opposite way. That way my butt connectors are offset when I'm running them through my heat shrink. It just makes everything a little cleaner and tighter. I don't have a big bulge there from the two butt connectors being directly on top of each other. I'm going to cut some heat shrink tubing to cover the butt connectors. I'm just cutting it to length and then sliding it over before we put the butt connectors on there. I'm using the yellow. These are 10 to 12 gauge butt connectors. Of course, this is 12 gauge wire. And then using these ratchet style crimpers to crimp them on. These are good to use for marine applications because they do not puncture the plastic when crimping, which is important because you don't want anywhere for salt water to get in to start corroding your connections. After they're both crimped and in place, using just a heat gun here to shrink the butt connectors and for it to release that adhesive. You can use other forms of heat. I just like to use a heat gun because it keeps me from overheating them, and you can actually make them brittle if you overheat them. I'm sliding the heat shrink into place, and once again using the heat gun to shrink it down. And since this particular application is going to be inside my rigging tube and I'm not going to be able to access it, I'm going to use some electrical tape over the top just as another means of securing everything into place, making sure that it doesn't accidentally get tugged on or something. If I do run some other wires or something through that rigging tube, I don't want something to get stuck on it and pull them apart. That electrical tape will help keep them in place. Just a little added extra strength. Here I'm just pulling the wiring up through the rigging tube until it's just slightly snug, and then giving myself about 3.5 to 4 feet of wiring so that I can hook it up to my battery. So all I've got left to do is connect this lead to this end once I know where my battery is going to be at. As you can see, it's all empty under here. Just doing a fresh rigging. Find a nice dry place to mount the relay box up here up underneath somewhere on the console. Plug in my switch leg and run it wires up to my switch up here at my steering wheel, and that's it. It'll be done.